Hey, I just wanted to do a quick video response to Thunderbolt 94's video in which he talks about Christian persecution and atheism as a lack of belief. However, I would like to preface this video by acknowledging the fact that Thunderbolt 94 in a private message elaborated that he didn't feel persecuted, but was merely making the point that insulting Christians would only make them feel that way. So I guess that portion of this video is going to be addressed to the Christians who do feel that way, rather than being addressed to Thunderbolt 94. So, with that in mind, I'd like to start by saying that if you take a stance on anything in a public forum, then you will most likely find someone who disagrees with you. And you might even find people who will call you names for your beliefs. Now, if your beliefs are completely ridiculous, then this is much more likely to happen. But if your beliefs are justifiable and based on something more than just your feelings in the matter, then you are less likely to incur the wrath of naysayers. But naysayers will find you no matter what you believe. That is just a matter of fact. On another note, the so-called prophecy, which claimed Christians would be persecuted for their beliefs, was written during a time when that was already taking place, in ancient Rome. And it wasn't people making snide remarks anonymously behind a computer screen. It was a hideous torture which rivaled the Inquisition. The Romans tortured Christians publicly. They would use horrifying devices such as the iron chair, which was a chair made of iron with burning coals under it to make it red hot. When the iron chair was prepared, they would undress the Christian, in a stadium no less, and force them onto the chair for being heretics of Jupiter. Any honest person will readily admit that the alleged persecution which Christians face today is not the same level of persecution that Christians used to face in ancient Rome. There are plenty of examples throughout history of different denominations of Christianity actually being persecuted, oftentimes by other Christians. But it is disingenuous to say that the privileged status which Christians enjoy in America today is anywhere near persecution. To be completely honest, some Christians treat atheists at least as bad as atheists treat Christians, if not worse. And in our free society, there is a marketplace of ideas in which conversations about beliefs can be openly exchanged and vigorously debated. But if your beliefs are too fragile for criticism, or the harsh words of naysayers, then you have the option to keep your beliefs to yourself. However, when you are ready and willing, you should start by critically evaluating your beliefs, before bringing them to a public forum, so that when the naysayers arise, as they always do, you will be able to defend your beliefs better, instead of just pretending that you're being persecuted. Later in the video, you reject the definition of atheism as a lack of belief because you assert that a lack of belief doesn't tell you our position, but rather our lack of a position. I disagree with this assertion in part. I agree that a person's lack of belief in something doesn't inform you about what the person actually believes. However, this does not mean that a lack of belief is not a position. Allow me to elaborate briefly, since you say that you can't figure out the term lack of belief. Although my position on this subject varies slightly depending on the definition of God being used, it is usually the willful suspension of belief in an unfalsifiable claim which has failed to meet its burden of proof, until it has been sufficiently demonstrated to be true. It is my response to a single claim. On this note, I would like to comment on your statement that it is precisely because it has so many meanings is why I reject the idea that atheism is a lack of belief, because if I cannot figure out what you mean by the term lack of belief, then why are we even having this discussion? For you, Thunderbolt, the absurdity of this statement might be better understood if we replace my atheist position with your Christian position, since there are vastly different beliefs about God and his characteristics within Christianity. So tell me if you can recognize the nonsense of your statement when I rephrase it as, it is precisely because it has so many meanings is why I reject the idea of Christianity as a belief in God. Because if I cannot figure out what you mean by the term belief in God, then why are we even having this discussion? Then, you fallaciously assert that not believing in a claim is the same as believing the claim to be false, which is not true, and you even admit to this when you say that a lack of belief can mean you don't have a belief either way. This contradiction might be a sad attempt to put some burden of proof on skepticism by making it seem like a faith-based position, or it also might be a failure to think critically about what it means to have no belief either way. Allow me to illuminate another thing which you misunderstood. Your inability to understand the basics of epistemology and how beliefs work, whether you do this intentionally or not, is the basis of people insulting you in this context, and not your Christianity. Which brings me to my final point. If you truly intend to understand atheists, like you say you do, then you must first be willing to relinquish your notion that people must either believe that a claim is true, or believe that a claim is false, because it's a flawed, black and white type of thinking, which will inevitably insult people by putting them into opinions apart from their own. You have to admit, if you want to get anywhere, that beliefs inhabit a broader spectrum than either or. You persistently complain that your beliefs on this matter aren't being respected, but you fail to realize that the very people who aren't respecting your beliefs are merely reciprocating your discourteous insults. And you fail to realize that respect is not required in these discussions because respect is earned.